The fallen warrior smoke covered the battlefield like a heavy blanket. Broken machines burned. Bodies lay still under the gray sky. Blaster fire had stopped. Silence ruled now, cold and heavy. In the center of this ruined land, she lay. The proud alien warrior, SciFi. Once she had been unstoppable. Her armor, shining black and silver, once made her enemies tremble. Her blade had sung songs of victory. Now the armor was cracked. The blade was gone. And SciFi could not even move. Her body was broken. Her legs refused to obey her. Even her arms shook when she tried to lift them. She was paralyzed. Blood dark and sticky dripped from her mouth. Her golden eyes, once fierce, were filled with something terrible, helplessness. Groups of survivors walked past her. Some were humans, some were aliens. All were soldiers. All saw her, but no one stopped. A tall alien in golden armor sneered as he passed. "She's finished," he spat. "A fallen blade has no use." Another human soldier whispered to his friend, "Poor thing, but we can't risk it. She's dead weight." One by one, they left her lying there, broken and alone. SciFi closed her eyes. Shame burned inside her stronger than any pain. She had been taught that warriors must die on their feet, not beg on the ground. But her body betrayed her. Her life slowly slipped away with each breath, just when she thought no one would even care. She heard footsteps, slow, heavy, different. Human soldier was standing over her now. His name was Derek Vane. His uniform was torn. His helmet hung from his side. His face, rough and tired, was covered with dirt and small cuts. But his eyes, his gray human eyes, were clear. Not with pity, with decision. He knelt beside her. SciFi forced her broken voice to whisper, "Leave me. Go." But Derek didn't move. He checked her wounds with quick, careful hands. "You're alive," he said simply. His voice was steady, like a man who had seen too much death today. From the distance, Derek's commander barked orders through a communicator. "Unit 7, fall back to base immediately. Leave non-priority casualties behind." Derek hesitated. He looked at SciFi again. At her broken form, at the blood soaking into the dirt around her, at the faint trembling of her fingers, the tiny sign that she was still fighting. He could leave. He should leave. But something inside him, something stubborn and deeply human, refused. With a grunt, Derek slid his arms under her. SciFi winced in pain but didn't resist. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice so soft that even the wind almost took it away. "Saving someone who deserves it," Derek said. He lifted her carefully. She was heavier than she looked, her alien body, denser than a human's. Derek staggered under the weight but didn't fall. Around them, some soldiers shouted warnings. Others laughed. "You're crazy, Vane," one yelled. "She's gonna get you killed," another barked. Derek ignored them. SciFi felt his heart beating against her shoulder, steady, strong, stubborn. A strange feeling grew inside her chest. Was this hope? A loud boom shattered the silence. Derek turned. A giant enemy dropship had entered the battlefield, soldiers pouring out like ants. The ground shook as war machines stomped toward them. Derek tightened his grip on SciFi. No way back to the base, no backup, no safe path. Only one choice forward. With the paralyzed warrior in his arms, Derek ran straight into the fire. Blaster bolts zipped past him. Dust and blood filled the air. Each step felt heavier. Each breath burned his lungs. But Derek didn't stop. SciFi, clinging weakly to his chest, could only watch. She had been ready to die. But now, she desperately wanted to live. Behind them, angry shouts grew louder. Ahead, the battlefield stretched endless and broken. Still Derek ran. Still he carried her. Still he fought against the very fate the galaxy had written for them. The choice that changed everything. Derek's boots smashed against broken ground. As he ran, each step was a war against pain. His arms shook under Saratai's weight, his vision blurred with sweat and dust. But he didn't stop. Behind him, enemy soldiers shouted. They had seen him, a human carrying a paralyzed alien warrior. Easy prey. Blaster shots whizzed past. One burned a hole in Derek's sleeve, searing his skin. He didn't even flinch. His focus was locked on the broken hills ahead, a small chance of cover. Saratai clung to him weakly. Her pride screamed in shame. Her heart, however, whispered something different. This human, he was risking everything for her. Why? She was no longer a proud fighter. She was no longer useful. She was just a burden. Put me down, she rasped, blood staining her lips. You'll die because of me. Derek tightened his grip. Not your choice, he said firmly. Another shot exploded near them, throwing Derek off balance. He stumbled, crashed to one knee, shielding Saratai with his own body. Get up, get up. He hissed to himself, tasting blood. In the distance, Derek saw his own platoon, humans hurrying into armored transports, engines roaring to life. Safety, escape. But the transports were pulling back fast. If he didn't reach them now, he would be left behind. A voice crackled through his comm. Vane, where the hell are you? Move it. No rescue for stragglers. Derek's heart pounded. His mind screamed warnings. Drop her. Run. Save yourself. He could do it. He could toss her aside and sprint. No one would blame him. She wasn't human. She wasn't even his responsibility. And yet, he looked down at Saratai, her body broken, her golden eyes wide, not with fear, but with acceptance. She had already accepted death, and he realized no one had ever fought for her, not once. Gritting his teeth, Derek shoved himself upright. He changed direction, not toward the transports, but toward the ruins of an old collapsed bunker. The safest place? No. The most obvious place? No. But it was cover. And right now, cover meant survival. Bullets rained down. The world narrowed. To Derek's breathing, his beating heart, and the weight of the life he refused to abandon. Inside the ruins, it was dark and cold. The walls groaned. The ceiling dripped water. But it was shelter. Derek slid behind a broken pillar and gently lowered Saratai to the ground. His arms trembled uncontrollably. Outside, enemy patrols swarmed like wolves, searching. Derek pulled out his last energy pack and snapped it open. He tilted it toward Saratai's lips. Drink, he ordered. Saratai tried to push it away with her weak hand. Save it for yourself. Derek's voice was steel. You drink. That's an order. Slowly, painfully, Saratai sipped the bitter liquid. Her body, broken and burning with pain, absorbed it like dry earth drinks rain. Color returned faintly to her cheeks. Her fingers twitched a little more. They sat in silence, listening to the enemies moving closer. Derek checked his weapons. 1 pistol, 2 energy clips, no grenades, not enough to fight an army. He thought quickly. They couldn't stay here long. The enemies would find them, smell them out. They needed an escape plan. Saratai spoke suddenly, her voice low but urgent. Noir, my armor. Left side. Beacon. Derek reached carefully, feeling under the cracked metal. His fingers closed around a small device. A distress beacon. If activated, it would send a call. But who would answer? Saratai's people had abandoned her. Derek's superiors had already left. Still, it was their only hope. He clicked it on. The beacon pulsed weakly, sending a soft blue glow into the darkness. For a moment, hope flickered. Then, footsteps. Dozens. Close. Too close. Derek's muscles tensed. He raised his pistol, aiming at the entrance. If they came, he would fight. Not for glory, not for orders, for her. Saratai struggled to lift her broken body. She gritted her teeth, her pride refusing to let him fight alone. "Stay down," Derek whispered fiercely. "You've done enough." Tears burned Saratai's eyes. No one had ever said those words to her before. The enemy soldiers neared. Their harsh voices echoed through the ruins. "Search every crack. Find the human and the cripple." Derek steadied his shaking hand. The first shadow appeared at the door. One breath, 1 second, his finger tightened on the trigger. Through fire and ashes, the shadow at the entrance shifted. Derek barely breathed. His pistol was steady, but his heartbeat thundered in his ears. The enemy soldier stepped into the ruin, tall, armored, weapon ready. His sharp eyes scanned the dark corners. Derek fired, one precise shot. The soldier dropped without a sound, but it was too late. The shot echoed like a thunderclap across the broken battlefield. Shouts exploded outside. Footsteps pounded toward them. "They're here." "Surround them," Derek cursed under his breath. He grabbed Saratai, who had somehow forced herself upright with her one working arm. "I'll slow them down," Derek whispered. I stay," Saratai rasped. "We fight together." For a second their eyes locked. Human and alien, soldier and warrior, broken and still standing, together. No more words needed. The first wave came fast. 3 enemy soldiers burst into the room. Derek fired twice, hitting 2. The third lunged forward, but Saratai, using all her fading strength, swung a broken steel rod lying nearby. It hit the soldier across the helmet, knocking him down. Derek finished him with a shot. Blood smeared the floor, but more were coming. Too many. Derek's clip ran dry. He ejected it, slammed the last one into place. His hands moved automatically, years of training guiding him even as fear clawed at his gut. "We can't hold," he said. Outside, through a broken wall, he spotted it. An abandoned hover truck, half crushed under rubble. Broken? Maybe. But better than waiting to die here. He turned to Saratai. "Can you move?" She gritted her teeth. "With you, yes." Without wasting a second, Derek scooped her into his arms again. He sprinted toward the back of the ruin, bullets tearing through the walls behind them. Debris rained down. Dust choked the air. Enemies chased them, shouting, firing blindly. A bolt grazed Derek's side. Pain bloomed hot and sharp, but he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. He reached the hover truck, kicked open the cracked door, and shoved Saratai inside. The controls were half dead, wires sparking. The engine coughed and died as he pressed the ignition. Come on," Derek growled, slamming his fist against the console. Another shot cracked past his head. Saratai's fingers, weak, shaking, found the emergency starter panel. She slammed it with her elbow. The truck roared to life, a wounded beast but alive. Derek jammed the accelerator. The hover truck screamed as it tore through the ruins, barely missing broken walls and fallen bodies. Enemy soldiers shouted behind them, firing wildly. Shots pinged off the metal frame. One bolt punched through the side, missing Saratai's head by inches. Derek hunched over the controls, blood dripping from his wounded side, every muscle in his body screaming for rest. The broken landscape flashed past, burning wreckage, shattered towers, pools of blackened earth. "Hang on," he yelled. The truck hit a crater. It bounced violently. Saratai cried out, her body slamming into the seat, pain ripping through her. But she didn't let go. She gritted her teeth and endured, because this human, this stubborn, reckless, stupid human, was fighting harder for her life than she had ever fought for her own. After what felt like forever, Derek spotted it. An old maintenance tunnel, half hidden by debris, a perfect place to hide. He swerved the hover truck sharply. The vehicle skidded, sparks flying, and slammed into the narrow entrance. Metal groaned. The truck stalled. But they were in. Darkness swallowed them. Only the soft hum of the dying engine and Derek's harsh breathing filled the air. For a long moment, neither moved. Then Derek slumped back against the seat, his whole body trembling. Saratai turned her head weakly to look at him. "You're insane," she whispered. Derek gave a tired, broken grin. "Maybe, but you're still alive. Outside, the enemy search parties howled in frustration, but the tunnel hid them well. For now, Derek checked their supplies, almost nothing left. One pistol with no spare ammo, a leaking water pack. Sci-Fi's beacon still pulsing weakly, calling for help that might never come. He leaned his head back against the seat, closing his eyes for a second. He had chosen this path. He had chosen her. No regrets. Even if this was the end, no. The silent Sci-Fi spoke. "You could have left me," she said. "You should have left me." Derek opened one eye, looking at her. "You deserved better," he said simply. Sci-Fi stared at him, really stared for the first time. Not as a human, not as a soldier, but as something more, something rare, something precious. And in that broken tunnel, surrounded by death and darkness, something unspoken passed between them, something stronger than orders, stronger than war, stronger than fear. Hope. Outside, distant engines rumbled, new enemies, bigger threats. The fight wasn't over yet, not even close. And this time, Derek wasn't fighting alone. The human gamble. The tunnel was dark, cold, and smelled of rust and burned fuel. The only light came from Sci-Fi's weakly pulsing beacon, a blue glow that barely touched the walls. Derek sat in the front seat of the broken hover truck, his hands shaking from blood loss. He stared at the pistol lying on his lap. One clip, maybe 10 shots, and outside, the rumble of enemy vehicles grew louder, bigger, closer. Sci-Fi shifted weakly beside him, her breathing shallow. She knew what Derek was thinking. Fight? Hide? Or gamble? There was no way back to the base now. No one even knew they were alive. Unless someone answered the beacon. But if the wrong side answered first, they were finished. Derek exhaled slowly. He had made his choice before, to save her. Now, he would bet everything on it. He turned and looked at Sci-Fi. Even broken, her spirit burned in her golden eyes. "If help comes," Derek said softly, "it'll be because of you." Sci-Fi blinked in confusion. "What do you mean?" "You're worth saving," he said. "Someone has to see that." For a second, she forgot the pain in her body. No one, not even her own commanders, had ever said that to her before. She was a weapon to them, a tool. But to this human, she was a person. The ground trembled again, this time closer. Heavy engines, maybe tanks, maybe worse. Derek tightened the belt around his bleeding side. Pain flared, sharp, blinding, but he pushed through it. He climbed out of the truck, grabbing his pistol. Sci-Fi's voice, weak but fierce, followed him. "What are you doing?" "Buying us time," he said. "No." She tried to push herself up, but her body betrayed her again. "You stay hidden," Derek said firmly. "You survive." He gave her a small smile, tired, broken, but real. "I already made my choice," he added, "and I'd make it again." Before she could argue, he disappeared into the shadows. Outside, the enemy convoy rolled past, huge armored carriers, hover bikes, foot soldiers armed with heavy plasma rifles, at least 40 of them, against one human with a half-empty pistol. Suicide mission. Derek crouched low behind broken rubble, breathing shallowly. His mind raced. Think. He couldn't fight them all. But maybe he could make them think there were more humans nearby. He pulled a broken communication disc from his belt. It was damaged during the escape, but maybe it still had one last burst left. Quickly, he adjusted the settings. He programmed it to send out fake distress calls, bouncing them across nearby ruins. It would sound like an entire squad of humans hiding. Here, not just him. He activated it and threw it as far as he could. The device landed with a soft clink, flashing red. Seconds later, human-like voices screamed through the night. "Help! They're flanking us." Enemy at Sector 9, request backup. We're pinned down. The enemy soldiers froze, confused, nervous. The commanders barked orders. Split up. Search the area. Flush them out. Panic rippled through their ranks. Exactly what Derek had hoped for, but it also meant they were hunting faster now, and they would find him soon. Derek backed deeper into the shadows, blood dripping from his side. He was slowing down. He knew he couldn't outrun them forever, but maybe, just maybe, he could lead them away from Saratai. Give her a chance. Even if he died here, she could live. Meanwhile, inside the tunnel, Saratai fought against her broken body. She dragged herself forward inch by painful inch, her fingers clawing into the dirt. She had to reach him. She had to fight. Not for honor, not for pride, for Derek, the human who had gambled everything for her. Her vision blurred. Pain screamed in her bones, but she pushed on. Derek stumbled into an open clearing, a broken plaza with fallen statues and shattered walls. Too exposed. Too late. Enemies poured in from every side. Guns raised, spotlights locked onto him. He raised his pistol, standing tall despite the pain. He would fight to the end. For her. For Earth, someone shouted mockingly. They laughed. Derek just smiled grimly. For hope, he whispered, and pulled the trigger. The first enemy fell, then the second. But there were too many. Shots hit Derek, once in the shoulder, once grazing his leg. He staggered but didn't fall. Not yet. Blaster bolts burned the air around him. He fired again, and again, and again, until, click, empty. The soldiers surrounded him, weapons aimed. Their commander stepped forward, sneering. You fought well, human, he said. But it's over. Derek's knees buckled. Blood soaked his armor. He gritted his teeth, prepared for the final blow. But suddenly, a blast of energy exploded behind the enemy lines. Bright, violent. Soldiers screamed and scattered. Another blast followed. From the dark sky above, sleek black ships descended, fast and deadly. The insignia on their sides gleamed silver under the moonlight. Not enemy ships, not Earth ships. They were Saratai's people. But, why, inside the leading ship, an alien woman in officer armor barked orders. Protect the human, recover the warrior. Derek collapsed to his knees, too weak to even smile. Help had come. Saratai's beacon had been answered. But at what cost? His vision blurred. Darkness crept in. The last thing he saw was Saratai crawling into the clearing, dragging her broken body toward him, her golden eyes filled with something more powerful than pride. Tears and hope. A silent promise. The sky was burning, not from fire, but from the bright engines of the rescue ships landing fast and hard, kicking up dust and broken stones. Saratai's people, the Valrin, stormed the battlefield with fierce, precise moves. Their silver armor glowed under the ruined sky, their energy weapons slicing through the enemy like blades through cloth. But Saratai barely noticed any of it. Her world had narrowed to a single broken figure lying motionless in the dirt. Derek. His armor was cracked. Blood soaked his side and leg. His pistol, empty and forgotten, lay beside his hand. She crawled forward, dragging herself across the rubble. Pain screamed in every bone, but she didn't care. Her hand shook violently as she reached for him. His skin was cold. Too cold. No, Saratai whispered, voice cracking. She pressed her forehead against his chest, a Valrin sign of deep respect and bond, willing him to stay, willing his heart to beat again. Around her, the battle was over. Enemy soldiers fled into the darkness. The Valrin rescue team secured the area, but Saratai stayed kneeling in the dirt, her whole being focused on the human who had gambled everything for her. A shadow fell over her. A tall Valrin officer stepped forward. Commander Vorin. His silver cape fluttering, he looked down at Saratai with cold, judging eyes. You waste your tears on a human, he said harshly. He is nothing. Saratai lifted her head slowly. Her golden eyes burned not with anger, but something more terrifying. Silent fury. He is worth more than all of you, she said. Vorin sneered. We saved you, not him. Saratai struggled to her feet, standing unsteadily on trembling legs. You left me, she said, her voice rising. You all did. He didn't. A few Valrin soldiers nearby exchanged uneasy glances. Commander Vorin's face darkened. Do not shame your own kind, he growled. Saratai took a step forward, her body swaying dangerously. I swore loyalty to the Valrin, she said, her voice like a blade. But my soul belongs to the one who carried me through fire. She dropped to one knee beside Derek again and pressed 2 fingers against his neck. Faint. A heartbeat. Still alive. Barely. She let out a shaking breath. A medic rushed forward. A younger Valrin with softer eyes. I can save him, the medic said quickly. But we must bond him to our lifeweave. It's risky. Saratai didn't hesitate. Do it. The medic nodded, pulling a small vial from his belt. Glowing blue liquid. Pure life energy. He injected it into Derek's arm. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Derek gasped violently, his body arching in pain. Saratai grabbed his hand, tightly. I'm here, she whispered. Slowly, Derek's breathing steadied. His eyes fluttered open, dazed. He looked up at her, confused. You're alive, he rasped. Saratai smiled through her tears. And so are you. Commander Vorin turned, sharply barking into his communicator. Enough sentiment, prepare to leave, this area is unstable. The ground rumbled beneath them as if in agreement. Old energy cores buried under the battlefield were destabilizing. A chain explosion was coming. They had minutes, maybe seconds, to escape. The medic threw a small personal shield over Derek and Saratai, helping lift Derek into Saratai's weak arms. She gritted her teeth, her body barely able to carry his weight, but she refused to let him fall. Step by step, she moved toward the waiting ships. Behind them, the ruins began to crack and explode, blue fire tearing through the air. At the edge of the clearing, Saratai stumbled. Her legs gave out. Derek slid from her arms, gasping as he hit the ground. The ships were just ahead. Soldiers shouted. The explosions roared closer. Saratai looked at Derek, her mind screaming, Move, move, move. But her body was done. She couldn't carry him anymore. Tears blurred her vision. Was this how it would end? After everything? A heavy hand grabbed her shoulder. Saratai turned in shock. It was Commander Vorin. He scowled deeply, but he reached down and hauled Derek onto his own back. Without a word, he started running toward the ships. For a second, Saratai stood frozen. Then she ran too, her body fueled by something beyond strength. Hope. They reached the ramp of the ship just as the ground behind them exploded in a massive wave of blue energy. The force threw them forward into the ship. The doors slammed shut, the engines roared, and they escaped. Barely. Inside the ship, Saratai knelt beside Derek, clutching his hand. Commander Vorin watched from a distance, his face unreadable. The medic patched Derek's wounds quickly, working, with silent speed. Saratai leaned down, her forehead brushing Derek's. I owe you my life, she whispered. Derek, weak but awake, smiled faintly. You already paid me back, he murmured. She shook her head. No, she said. I promise you, Derek Vane. This bond will never break. It was a silent promise, stronger than any oath. The ship blasted into the stars, carrying them toward an uncertain future. But one thing was sure. They would face it together. The awakening. The stars blurred into long streams outside the ship's windows as it jumped into hyperspace. Inside the medical bay, everything was quiet. Too quiet. Derek lay unconscious on a simple medical bed wrapped in strange alien healing bands that pulsed with soft blue light. His breathing was shallow but steady. Saratai sat beside him. never moving far, her golden eyes fixed on his face. She had refused rest. She had refused food. Nothing mattered now except him waking up. Commander Vorin stood in the corner, arms folded, his face carved from stone. He had not spoken to Sci-Fi since they escaped, but she could feel his judgment. She didn't care. Not anymore. Derek had risked everything for her, not because she was a warrior, not because she was powerful, but because she was alive, because she was worth saving. And now, she would do the same. Hours passed. The healers worked silently, applying strange medicines, ancient techniques of the Valrin. But even they whispered in doubt. The human had lost too much blood. His body had suffered too much. He may never wake, one healer said quietly. Sci-Fi's fists clenched. No, she whispered fiercely. He will. She leaned down, her forehead resting lightly against Derek's. In her mind, she reached deep into the bond they shared. A bond born from pain, sacrifice, and stubborn hope. Wake up, Derek. I need you. Suddenly, a twitch. A shudder. Sci-Fi gasped, pulling back. Derek's fingers moved. His eyes fluttered. Slowly, painfully, he opened. Them gray, stormy eyes, dazed but alive. Derek, Sci-Fi breathed, voice trembling. He blinked slowly, trying to focus. His lips cracked into a dry, weak smile. You look terrible, he croaked. A laugh broke from Sci-Fi, half sob, half relief. You idiot, she whispered, wiping her eyes roughly. You scared me. You're tough to kill, Derek muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. So are you, Sci-Fi said, her hand gripping his tightly. Commander Vorin stepped forward finally. The human lives, he said flatly. Good. We have bigger problems. Sci-Fi stood up slowly, blocking Derek with her body instinctively. What? Problems? She demanded. Vorin's face darkened. You activated a sacred bond, he said coldly. Without permission. Sci-Fi didn't flinch. So? The council will see it as a crime, Vorin said. You bonded with an outsider, a human. Sci-Fi's jaw tightened. I chose, she said. Not them. Vorin's voice grew sharp. You defied your people. You shamed your bloodline. Behind her, Derek struggled weakly to sit up. I don't understand, he said, coughing. What's the big deal? Sci-Fi turned to him, her face softening. In my culture, she said quietly, a battle bond is sacred. It is more than loyalty. It is life shared. Derek frowned slightly. So, we're partners? Sci-Fi smiled faintly. More than that, she said. Your pain is mine. Your strength is mine. Your life is tied to mine. Derek stared at her. He had thought he was just saving someone who needed help. He hadn't realized he was reshaping two destinies at once. Vorin's voice cut, sharply. The council has ordered her return for judgment. Sci-Fi stiffened. They will separate you, Vorin said, a cruel gleam in his eyes. Forcefully. Derek's heart pounded harder despite his weakness. Separate? After all they had fought through? After everything? No, he croaked, trying to rise. Sci-Fi's hand pressed him back gently. No one will separate us, she said, fire burning in her golden eyes. Vorin sneered. You would defy the will of your people? Sci-Fi didn't hesitate. I will defy anyone who tries to tear apart what we fought to save. She turned and knelt beside Derek again, her voice low and fierce. I made you a silent promise, she whispered. I will not leave you. And in Derek's weak, battered heart, something powerful rose. He wasn't alone anymore. He had family now, not by blood, but by bond. By choice. The ship's alarm suddenly blared. Red lights flashed. Vorin spun toward the control panel. Unidentified ships approaching. A pilot shouted. Multiple enemy signatures. Sci-Fi grabbed Derek's arm. Hold on, she said urgently. Outside, black enemy ships emerged from hyperspace. Sleek, sharp, and deadly. Mercenaries. Hunters. And they weren't here for loot. They were here for them, for the human, and for the traitor warrior who dared to break ancient laws. Inside the ship, panic spread. Some Valran soldiers prepared to fight. Others looked uncertain, unsure if they should protect Sci-Fi and Derek or hand them over. Vorin's face twisted in anger. "You have brought a storm upon us," he shouted at Sci-Fi. She ignored him. She helped Derek stand, wrapping his arm over her shoulders. He was weak, but his legs moved one painful step at a time. Together they moved toward the armory. Derek coughed, his voice rough. "Got a plan?" Sci-Fi smiled grimly. "Yes," she said. "Stay alive." He chuckled weakly. Simple enough. Behind them, the ship shook under enemy fire. The battle for their freedom had just begun, and this time, they were not running. They would fight, together, against an entire galaxy if they had to. Together we rise. The ship rocked violently. Enemy fire pounded against the shields. Warning sirens screamed from every wall. Metal groaned under pressure. In the chaos, Derek and Sci-Fi moved like one. She supported him with one arm, guiding him through the narrow halls. He clutched a stolen plasma rifle in his free hand, weak but determined. Ahead, Commander Vorin barked orders at the crew. "All units, prepare for boarding defense. Do not let them reach the core." But doubt was thick in the air. Some Valran soldiers looked at Derek and Sci-Fi with hesitation. To fight for them, or betray them. Sci-Fi's voice rang out, strong and sharp. "Listen to me." The soldiers froze, turning toward her. "I was once your champion," she said, her voice steady despite her injuries. "I bled for our people, I fought your wars." She looked at Derek beside her, broken, stubborn, human. "And yet when I was paralyzed, when I was left for dead, it was not you who saved me. It was him." Silence fell. Sci-Fi's golden eyes blazed. "If you still believe in honor, if you still believe in what the Valran once stood for, then stand with us now." Her words hit like thunder. Some soldiers lowered their weapons, shame on their faces. Others, hardened by loyalty to tradition, raised their rifles. Commander Vorin snarled. "Traitors," he spat. "You would betray your people for a human?" One young soldier, barely more than a boy, stepped forward and faced Vorin. "We are not betraying our people," he said. "We are saving what is left of their honor." Slowly, more Valran soldiers moved to stand behind Sci-Fi and Derek. The ship split into two sides, one loyal to the old ways, the other ready to fight. For something new, for hope. The enemy boarding ship slammed into the hull, metal screamed, doors buckled. The first wave of mercenaries poured in. Tall, monstrous creatures in black armor, their weapons gleaming cruelly. The battle inside the ship began. Derek braced himself against a wall, aiming his rifle with trembling hands. He fired. One mercenary dropped. Another charged toward him. Before Derek could react, Sci-Fi lunged, her broken body moving with sudden fury, and slammed a stolen blade into the enemy's throat. Blood splashed the floor. She turned back to Derek, breathing hard. "I've got you," she said. Derek gave a bloody grin. "Right back at you." The corridors became a storm of fire and screams. Sci-Fi and Derek fought side by side, each protecting the other. Valran soldiers loyal to them covered their flanks, fighting desperately. Commander Vorin led the opposition, barking orders, trying to seize control of the ship. In the madness, Derek spotted a critical problem. The main energy core was exposed. One stray shot, and the whole ship would explode. He turned to Sci-Fi. "We have to cut them off," he shouted over the chaos, "or we all die." Sci-Fi nodded grimly. She pointed toward the engineering deck. "If we disable the secondary power lines, we can lock down half the ship." "But we'll be trapped too," Derek said. Sci-Fi smiled fiercely. "Better trapped than dead." They fought their way toward engineering, step by brutal step. Derek took a shot to the shoulder. He staggered, but stayed. Upright, Saratai took a deep cut to her leg. She barely flinched. They moved together like a single broken but unstoppable force. Finally, they reached the engineering deck. Saratai limped to the control panel, her fingers flying over the alien. Keys. Derek covered her, firing shot after shot, gritting his teeth against the pain. The doors buckled behind them. Mercenaries trying to break through. Seconds left. Hurry, Derek shouted. Saratai hit the final command. The ship groaned. Thick blast doors slammed down across the main corridors, sealing off half the ship. The mercenaries on the other side screamed in rage, pounding on the walls. They were trapped for now. Saratai sagged against the console, breathing hard. Derek dropped to one knee, gasping. They looked at each other. Alive, for now. But the fight wasn't over. Commander Vorin had survived, and he wasn't giving up. Over the intercom, his voice crackled. You cannot escape, Saratai. Surrender the human. Save yourself. Saratai grabbed the intercom and answered coldly. I choose him. Silence followed. Then, a deep, bitter laugh from Vorin. So be it. Then you both die. The ship shook again. Vorin had ordered the ship to self-destruct. A countdown began flashing across the screens. 10 minutes to core breach. Derek coughed weakly. Got any more good ideas? Saratai's mind raced. The escape pods, small, fast, hidden. If they could reach them, they could survive. Maybe. Follow me, she said. She pulled Derek to his feet. Together, limping, bleeding, they ran through the shaking halls. Behind them, the ship crumbled. Ahead, light, the small docking bay where the pods waited. Enemy soldiers blocked their path. Too many. Derek raised his rifle. Out of bullets. Saratai raised her blade. Too tired. It seemed hopeless. Until a roar filled the hall. Valran soldiers, those loyal to Saratai, charged from the side, smashing into the enemies. They fought not for orders, not for survival, but for loyalty, for friendship, for a future. Saratai and Derek made it to the last escape pod. She shoved him inside. First, no way, Derek growled. We go together. She smiled at him, fierce and proud. Together. She climbed in beside him, sealing the hatch. The pod launched just as the ship behind them exploded into a giant ball of blue fire. Floating in the dark silence of space, they looked back at the burning wreck. It was over. The old world had burned away. What came next was unknown, but they would face it side by side. Saratai reached out, her fingers finding Derek's hand. A bond stronger than laws, than blood, than galaxies. Together. Always.